In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a remarkable invention, the West Digest. Do you remember this question? How would you find a case on a given point of law when cases are published chronologically, according to jurisdiction, and according to court? There are thousands of volumes of West reporters, so how can you find the handful of cases that address what you're looking for? To address this system, West created the key number system and the books called digests. There are many different digests, and while I'm going to tell you about all of them, we're going to use the only one I have access to at this library, the California Digest. This chart shows you the entire family of West digests. The ones at the top, the Century Digest, the General Digest, and the Decennial Digest, you're unlikely to ever see, let alone use. Because you're unlikely to use them and because they're nearly impossible to explain without having them in front of you to demonstrate with, the only thing I'm going to tell you about them is that they cover every court in every jurisdiction in the United States. So you can imagine they are very, very large digests. Maybe I'll make a supplemental video about them later. Now let's go down to the next level. And let's start on the right with special subject digests. Again, this is a category you probably aren't going to use, and they're just like they sound. The Education Law Digest, Social Security Digest, and Higher Education Law Digest. West has pulled cases about those subjects out of their other digests and put them into smaller specialty digests for practitioners who just want the smaller set in their office. You're not likely to use those. We don't have them at the India Library. Now let's get to the categories you might use. In the center are the digests that provide access to the federal cases. The largest set that covers all federal cases is published in multiple series, each one of which covers a specific time period. Unfortunately, they changed the title of it a few times. The oldest one is called the Federal Digest. The next version of it was called the Modern Federal Practice Digest. Then they changed it again when they came out with the third version of it and called it the Federal Practice Digest. Now, fortunately, that name seems to have stuck. So there's a Federal Practice Digest Second, Federal Practice Digest Third, Fourth, and Fifth series, which is the current series. If you wanted to do a very thorough search of federal law for perhaps a historical research that you're doing, you would have to search all of these, starting with the Federal Practice Digest and then going through the others. Let's look at the digest below this listing. You'll see to the right Federal Claims Court Digest and the Military Justice Digest. Those are just like they sound. One covers military justice courts, one covers the Federal Claims Court. You're not likely to use those. So let's concentrate on the other two a little bit. The U.S. Supreme Court Digest contains, you guessed it, only decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court. If you're doing research on U.S. Supreme Court decisions, you can use the general Federal Digest in the level above. But if you know all you want is U.S. Supreme Court cases, then you might as well just use the specific digest for that court. Be careful, though, because Lexis also publishes a U.S. Supreme Court Digest. It's called the U.S. Supreme Court Digest, Lawyers Edition. And I used to tell my students, if the digest is brown, put it down, because the version published by Lexis is brown, the version covered by West is red. The Lexis version does not use the key number system because obviously West has trademarked and copyrighted the key number system. There's also an individual digest for bankruptcy decisions, and you'll see that it's linked to the state court decisions, and I'll get to how that is in a minute. But if your practice is just bankruptcy, you might want to buy that standalone bankruptcy digest, which would have all the bankruptcy-related cases in it. Now let's go over here to the left-hand column, where you'll find state cases. There are 4 regional digests listed. but you probably remember that there are 7 regional reporters. There is no regional digest for the Northeastern Reporter, the Southwestern Reporter, or the Southern Reporter. I have no idea why, but if you wanted to do research on cases from, say, Tennessee, which is in the Southwestern Reporter, there is no regional reporter for that. Now, in addition to those 4 regional reporters, West publishes individual state reporters for all states except Delaware, Nevada, and Utah. I don't know why there's 3. It could just be that at the time West created the digest system, that there were just not enough lawyers and law librarians and judges in those 3 states to make it financially plausible. I don't know. There is a digest for every other state. Sometimes they're combined, like I believe West Virginia and Virginia are in the same digest. And if I recall correctly, Maryland and the District of Columbia may be in the same digest. And it's possible, for example, the Dakotas might be in the same digest. I don't know for sure. If you were just looking for California cases, you could use the California Digest. And we'll get into the California Digest more here in a minute. So what would you do if you were looking for Tennessee cases and there is no Southwestern Digest? Well, you'd use the Tennessee Digest. Except what are the odds that a law library outside of the state of Tennessee has a Tennessee Digest? Pretty slim. So then you'd have to use that big system at the top, the General Digest and the Decennial Digest, or you could just use Westlaw. The important thing to remember about all these digests is that they all operate the same way. Once you know how to use one, you know how to use them all, with one little quirk in the Decennial Digest that you would need to know, and I may cover if I ever do another video on it. Now let's look specifically at California's digest. The original West California Digest is pictured here on the left, and it covered cases from 1850 to 1950. We do not have this in the Indio branch. They may have it at the main library in Riverside. Cases decided after 1950 are digested in West California Digest Second. It's pictured on the right. Our library does have this digest. Digests can be fairly large sets. Here's a picture of the entire West California Digest Second. So the first thing you have to do when you're getting your research is determine which jurisdiction you want to search, or which court, so you can select the best digest to use. Obviously, if you're researching California law, you're going to go for the West California Digest. So, how are they organized? Well, obviously, first they're going to be organized alphabetically by topic. That's the whole purpose of the key number system and all the different topics. So they're organized alphabetically by topic, and I believe the first topic is called abandoned property, and the last topic is zoning. So first you would find the volume or volumes that contain the topic you're looking for. Some topics are so large they take more than one volume. Now you would open that volume to the topic. Some volumes have more than one topic in them. So you would open the volume to the topic and you would find the topic analysis. You remember that outline of the topic death that I showed you in a previous video? That's the topic analysis. And that shows how the topic is organized by key number. Then within the listings under the topic, you would turn to the key number you're interested in. The case abstracts are listed there along with the citations to the cases. So you can look through the abstracts, find the cases you're interested in, get the citations, and then go to the shelves and get the volumes. Now within a given key number, the case abstracts are organized first by jurisdiction. So for example, if you were using the Pacific Digest, there are cases from Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Kansas, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming in that regional reporter. The cases would be organized alphabetically by state, so decisions from Alaska would come first. Within that state, then, they'd be organized by court. Federal court decisions come first, starting with the U.S. Supreme Court, and then the appropriate circuit court, and then the district court. These would be followed by the state courts from top to bottom, and then by date. Now let's look at an example. This is a page from the digest from the topic animals, and in particular, let's look at key number 48. You'll see that the first case listed is a California state case. There are no federal cases listed under this key number. So the highest court would be the California Supreme Court, but there are none listed here. And so there are no California Supreme Court cases. Instead, the first court is the California Court of Appeal, and then those are in order by district. So the first district is first. The next case is from the second district, and the next one is also from the second district. And if you'll notice, the newer of those two is published first, so they are reverse chronological order by date within a given court. Now you may be wondering, why do most of these cases only show one short abstract, while the first one shows 3 and the last one shows 2? Let's look more closely. Look at the first one. There are 3 abstracts for the Delfino versus Sloan case. This is because there were 3 separate headnotes in that case that contained the animals key number 48. For the second case, Concerned Dog Owners of California versus the City of Los Angeles, there was only one headnote that had the key number animals 48. And that's why you see 3 abstracts for the first case, but only 1 for the second one. The last case on this page is Marcus versus Justice's Court of Little Lake Township. You'll notice there are 2 abstracts. That's because there were 2 headnotes in that case that contained the topic animals key number 48. Let's look at another example. This is a page from the alternative dispute resolutions topic, and it shows you key number 374 sub 3, the definition of which is merits. It starts with federal cases. The first 2 are from the Ninth Circuit. The CA stands for Court Appeals, Ninth Circuit. It's always going to be the Ninth Circuit in this digest because the case has to have originated in California, and the districts of California are in the Ninth Circuit. The abbreviation says CAL. That just means this case originated in California. The second one is also from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And the third one says CD-Cal, and that means Central District of California. It doesn't have to have California in parentheses in this case because it's right in the name of the court, the Central District of California. And that's the last federal case. Next, the state cases start. And in this one, you'll notice that the first state case listed is from the highest court in the state court system. CAL is the abbreviation for the Supreme Court of California. If we were to go on to the next page, then we would see there were cases listed from the Court of Appeal of California, probably starting with the first district and then the second district and so forth. So that's an example of one that does have federal court decisions listed. In the next video, we'll talk about the steps involved in using the digest.